Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, standing outside the gleaming glass doors of the Harrington Grand Hotel in downtown Chicago. His reflection stared back at him, a 41-year-old man in a rented tuxedo that didn't quite fit his shoulders right, holding a small laminated card that read VIP Event Staff, Temporary. He'd found the gig on Craigslist 3 nights ago, sitting at the kitchen table after his daughter Lily had finally fallen asleep, her fever broken just enough for him to breathe again. $950 for one night of work. To most people standing in that hotel lobby, $950 was what they spent on a single bottle of wine without blinking. To Marcus, it was 3 months of Lily's insulin co-pays, a week of groceries, and enough left over to fix the heat in their apartment before February turned Chicago into a freezer. He straightened his tie, pushed through the doors, and told himself what he always told himself: just get through the night. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that show up when life gets hard, go ahead and hit that like button right now, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel Kindness. We want to know where you're watching from, so drop your city and country in the comments. You might be surprised how many people around the world are rooting for the same things you are. The event was a private gala for a woman named Eleanor Whitfield, her 65th birthday, organized by her children, attended by Chicago's most carefully curated social circle. There were senators, surgeons, a retired federal judge, and more old money than Marcus had ever been in the same room with in his entire life. His job was simple: circulate the room with a tray of champagne flutes, refill when needed, smile when spoken to, and make himself invisible the rest of the time. He was good at invisible. He'd been practicing since his wife Dana left 4 years ago, quietly stepping back from his own life to make more room for Lily's. She was 7 now, type 1 diabetic, funny as anything, and the single best reason Marcus had ever been given to keep going on the days when keeping going felt like climbing a wall made of wet sand. He moved through the crowd with the careful grace of someone who understood that most of the people in this room would forget his face before they finished their next sentence. He was furniture to them, a pleasant, well-dressed fixture. He'd made peace with that a long time ago. What he hadn't made peace with was what happened at 8:47 p.m. near the east end of the ballroom, when he heard a sound that didn't belong in a room this polished. Crying, not dramatic, attention-seeking crying, the quiet, shoulder-trembling kind that people do when they're trying very hard not to be seen doing it. He found the source behind a tall floral arrangement, a woman in a deep emerald dress, her dark hair pinned elegantly, her mascara doing its best against a losing battle. She looked to be in her late 30s. She also looked like someone who hadn't cried in front of another human being in a very long time, and was horrified that she was doing it now. Marcus glanced around. Nobody else had noticed. He set his tray carefully on the nearest surface, reached into his jacket pocket, and produced something he always carried: a small travel pack of tissues. He'd learned to carry them after years of wiping Lily's tears at doctors' offices and emergency room waiting areas. He held them out to the woman without a word. She looked up, startled. Her eyes were dark brown and red-rimmed, and for a second she seemed prepared to say something dismissive. Then something shifted in her expression, like a door unlocking that she'd forgotten had a key. She took the tissues. "Thank you," she whispered. "Take your time," he said quietly, and moved to retrieve his tray. "Wait," she said. He turned back. "Don't go yet. Please, just stand here for a second, like you're talking to me. Everyone will think I'm fine if someone's talking to me." He stood. She composed herself with remarkable efficiency, dabbing carefully, straightening her posture. Up close, she was striking. Not in the manufactured way of most women at events like this, but in the way of someone who'd earned every line of character in her face. "I'm Nadia," she said. "Marcus, are you actually staff, or did you just decide to wander in with a tray of champagne?" The corner of his mouth lifted. "I'm staff, one-night temp, found the job online." She looked at him with something more than polite curiosity now. "Honest answer, I appreciate that. Most people in this room haven't given me an honest answer in 6 months." She paused. "I'm the birthday woman's daughter, the one who organized all of this, the one who has spent 11 hours making sure everything was perfect and nobody has said a single word about whether I'm doing okay." Marcus nodded slowly. He knew that particular brand of loneliness. The kind where you're surrounded by people and completely alone because you've made yourself indispensable instead of vulnerable. Are you? He asked. Doing okay? She laughed, a short, surprised sound. No. My divorce was finalized this morning. I signed the papers at 9 a.m. and then came here and put on this dress and smiled for 11 hours. She looked at him. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm not going to tell anyone, he said simply. And sometimes it's easier to talk to someone with nothing to gain from your story. She studied him for a long moment. What's your story, Marcus? He told her more than he intended to. Not everything. He wasn't the type to dump his life on a stranger, but enough. Lily, the insulin, the rented tuxedo, the Craigslist job. He said it all plainly, without asking for sympathy, the way people talk when they've stopped being ashamed of their circumstances and started just being honest about them. Nadia listened the way very few people actually listen, like she was filing every word somewhere important. Your daughter's lucky, she said when he finished. She's the lucky one? She's 7 and diabetic, and her dad shows up to black tie events in a tuxedo he doesn't own. She's lucky because her dad shows up, Nadia said quietly. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. Something passed between them in that moment. Not romantic, not yet. Something more foundational than that. The recognition of two people who had been quietly carrying enormous weight and had accidentally put it down in front of each other. He went back to work. She went back to her mother's party. He caught her eyes twice across the ballroom, and both times she looked at him like she was trying to figure out what to do with someone who had been unexpectedly real in a room full of performance. At 10:30, one of the kitchen staff found Marcus to tell him that a little girl had called the hotel's main line asking for her daddy and that they'd been trying to figure out who she belonged to for 10 minutes. Marcus went pale and moved through the ballroom at a pace that was almost running. Lily had memorized the hotel name from his notes on the refrigerator, apparently, because her blood sugar had dropped, and she'd called the babysitter and then the hotel because she was scared and wanted to hear his voice. He got to the phone. He talked her through it. Calm, steady, walking her step by step through where her juice boxes were and when to use her glucagon kit, and reminding her the babysitter was right there. It was okay. Daddy was here. He had her. His voice never cracked once. When he turned around, Nadia was standing 6 feet away. She had followed him. She'd seen the whole thing. She didn't say anything about it. She just said, "Is she okay?" "She will be," he said. "She always is." Nadia looked at him for a long time. "I want to give you something." She pressed a business card into his hand. "I run a nonprofit, Crisis Housing Coordination. We're underfunded, and I've been looking for a director of community outreach for 4 months. The pay is real. The benefits are real. It includes a family health plan." She paused. "I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I want to be clear about that. I'm doing this because in 2 hours you have demonstrated more genuine human decency than anyone I've met in 6 months, and my organization needs exactly that." He looked at the card, then at her. "I'm not qualified for something like that," he said. "You just talked a scared 7-year-old through a medical emergency over a hotel telephone while wearing a tuxedo you rented to make ends meet," she said. "You're more qualified than you know." He called the number 2 days later. He got the job. He started the following month. What neither of them talked about for a while. Not until much later. Not until a quiet dinner 7 months down the road where Lily had fallen asleep on Nadia's couch and neither of them had moved to wake her, was that it wasn't really a job offer that changed everything. It was a pack of tissues behind a floral arrangement. It was a man who noticed someone crying in a room where everyone else looked the other way. It was a woman who recognized what it looks like when someone has stopped performing and started simply being. Marcus never stopped being surprised that the night he took a $950 gig to cover his daughter's medical bills turned out to be the night his whole life quietly opened a new door. And Lily, for her part, declared that she liked Nadia because she always had real orange juice in her refrigerator, which, as far as 7-year-olds are concerned, is basically the highest honor a person can receive. If this story moved you, if you believe that ordinary people do extraordinary things every single day and that kindness has a way of coming back around, please take a second right now to like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to the channel Kindness so you never miss a story like this one. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Every single comment reminds us that no matter how divided things feel, there are still more good people than we remember.